Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Evening Forex Breakdown. My name is Gail Mercer, and I will be your hostess today. I would like you to take a moment to read over the Nadex risk disclaimer, and basically, you should not trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. Now, before we get started, for those of you that do not know me, again, my name is Gail Mercer. I'm the founder of Traders Help Desk. I've been a Forex trader for a little over 15 years. I'm also the author of the Trading Nadex Binary Option series on Amazon. There's one for Keeping It Simple Strategies, how to trade the Nadex binary options and spread, how to trade currencies, as well as using candlestick patterns. Now, previously, I have been a speaker at the Wyckoff Volume Conference, Traders World, Traders Expo, and TradeStation user groups. I do specialize in candlestick price formations, support, resistance, and volume analysis. I would like to invite you to visit tradershelpdesk.com to learn more about me, the indicators I use, and my methodology. Now, the first thing that I do every week before I even start to trade is actually look at what's going on in the markets that will affect the Forex. And like this week, tonight we have the Aussie Monetary Policy meeting minutes. Tomorrow is kind of a free day. We don't have a lot. But then on Wednesday, we have the Canadian CPI month over month. And we also have at 2 p.m. the FOMC meeting minutes. Now, this is not a rate announcement. It's just the minutes from their prior meeting in July. You do want to, well, traders do look at this to see, what were the thoughts of other people on the committee? How many voted for it? How many voted against it? They look at it for insight as to what they'll do at the next FOMC meeting, okay? So it can have some effect on the Forex market. Then on Thursday, on the Euro side at 3:15 a.m., we have the French Flash Services PMI, and we also have the German Flash Manufacturing PMI and the German Flash Services PMI. Both of those are at 3:30. Then on Friday, we have the Canadian Core Retail Sales month over month, and that is at 8:30. We also have the Fed Chair Powell speaking at 10 a.m. And of course, we have the Jackson Hole Symposium. That can cause a decrease in volatility, but if they come out and say something during that time, it could also create market spikes, okay? So basically, Friday is the big one in Wednesday afternoon, okay? So let's go and let's start with the Aussie dollar, okay? On the Aussie dollar, you can see that the weekly chart is approaching the area of being overextended. But the one thing that I also notice is that we have now made a lower low here, but we're making a higher low on the stochastics as well as on the RSI. So this may indicate that we will get some upward movement on the Aussie dollar this week, okay? Then I like to go down to the daily chart and say, okay, we do have right at the bottom here, we have a low. So I like to mark a line there because it could be that price comes back and tests that low, but I think a lot is going to depend on this fast moving average, which is the blue line. Now, so far, it seems to be acting as support. So if that continues, we could potentially go up to 68.33. Then I like to look at the 360. And of course, as you can see, the 360 is overextended right now. And the one thing that I would look at with that being overextended is the fact that we are overextended. But if we get a bullish bar right now, that is actually going to give you hidden divergence, which indicates that more likely than not, this market will go up. And I would be looking at it to go up to 67.97. Then it may come back and test for support again, but then it could potentially continue up to 68.34. And even if it continues to play out, up to 69.95. So does anybody have questions on the Aussie? I think today, whether this actually forms a bullish bar here is going to be the key to the Aussie. Okay, so let's go and let's look at the Euro Yen. And as you can see on the Euro Yen, we are overextended over here. Okay, so that tells me that more likely than not, we will go up. I would be expecting it to potentially go up to 121.80. Then when I look at the daily, you can see that it came back and tested that low and they rejected it not once but twice. So I would expect it to move up from here. Now they could still come back and test 127.91, but there is potential upward movement on this. On the 360, you do see that you have an ATR at 118.59. So I would like to see it go through that area and then come back and test for support before I would enter on the 360. Does everybody understand that? I do think we're going to have some upward movement, but the bottom line is it might not be time to enter right now. You want to make sure that you get that test for support before you actually just start entering this move. This would be a counter trend as it stands right now. Now on the euro dollar, you can see that you've had some divergence there, but it didn't really push the market up. So I think they're going to come back and try to test at least 1028 before they do go up. Then when you come down to the daily chart, again, the one thing that I would be noticing is right now you're making a higher low. So if this turns into a bullish bar for tomorrow, and you can't read that until 5 o'clock tomorrow, but if that turns into a bullish bar, you may actually see this market go up, especially with this overextended. Now, what I would personally like to see is for it to come back and test this low right here and for there to be divergence on it. That would potentially give me a counter trend trade that will break through 1124. Then I would exit and come back and enter when they test for support. So that's where you would potentially have like a 2-hour binary when it does that. And then after it tests for the support, that's where you would have the Nadex touch bracket. Does everybody understand that? In other words, I would time this upward movement that I'm anticipating up to 1125. I would time that with a 2-hour binary using a 15-minute and a 60-minute. And then once it went back and tested for support, I would come back and potentially do a touch bracket. I do think we're going to get some upward movement, especially with the stochastics here being overextended. And I always like to see a divergence to kick off my entry. These are my proprietary indicators, Howard. They're available on TradingView, NinjaTrader, TradeStation, and multi-charts. Okay. Any other questions about the euro dollar? Okay, let's go and look at the British pound dollar. On the British pound dollar, you can see that you are overextended on both the stochastics and the ADX. You've also had a Pearson line candlestick formation. That normally does indicate that this market will go up. I would expect it to go up to 25.42, but you always want to look out for that fast moving average, which is at 22.55. Okay, you also see that it has went above the fast moving average over here, and it's heading back towards this ATR. Okay, oh, sorry about that. The one thing that I would also like to point out is, do you see the divergence here on the lows? That would have kicked off that upward movement from here to here. Okay, so you've had this divergence here. That would have kicked off this upward movement. I do think we might come back and test 2042 or 2081, because over here you see there's an ATR at 2081. So you will either go to 2052 or 2080, 81. And I think it's going to find support there. So that's where I would potentially do a touch bracket for a move that could potentially play out even over here on the weekly, all the way back to 25.35. Okay, but again, you want to watch that 22.42 area, because it could act as resistance, and you do not want to see that resistance develop there. Any questions on the British pound dollar? And also, you do want to make sure that this 360-minute, that you form that support area, because it needs that support area to push price up. It needs it to give it the momentum to propel it. Okay, that's a good way to look at it. Okay, let's go and look at the USD JPY. And as you can see right now, you have a divergence on the weekly, and that's actually indicating an upward move is likely. Okay, but again, you have to watch this area. You want to see it close above 106.79. Okay, there is divergence there, which should push that market up. Okay, all right, when you look over at the daily chart, what would cause this not to push up to 108.97? Well, you have an area here at 107.36 that may actually stop it. Okay, so that's one area you want to watch. And then over here on the 360, you can actually see all of the areas. So you can see how this area actually supported price here. Okay, it had a bearish engulfing bar develop, then it formed the bullish bar. It's pushing up to this blue line right now at 107.32. Once it gets there, it's probably going to come back and test for another support area, and when that forms, it could potentially propel it up to 108.90. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, are there any currencies that you would like to look at? These are the ones that I look at every day, but I do know that there are other currencies like the British pound yen, or the Aussie yen, or euro, British pound, or the USD CAD. Any of those that y'all would like to look at? We could go and look at the USD CAD, because I think that has a market report this week. And take these off. And you see that it's approaching this ATR here at 1.3371. That is a strong area to watch because it could act as resistance, which would push the market down. And it looks like it may act as resistance right now, simply because, do you see how it's made this high and it's come back to test that high? So far it has failed. I think it may actually reach up and try to take out that area. So this is a critical area for the USD CAD. Okay, that's the way I would see that. The USD Swiss franc, sure. The USD Swiss franc is a good market to trade. It's just a little bit slower than the other markets. Now again, you see that you have that divergence over on the weekly chart. That usually will push this market up. Okay, that's one of the reasons I like divergence, is because you get quick action from it. Okay. So this is one that's probably going to push this market up. But again, where would it push it to? Okay. And there is a potential for it to push it up to 99.87. Okay. But what is there another area that may actually act as resistance? Yes, you have one here on the daily chart. Okay. So this is an area at 98.49 that you would also need to watch as well. Now, one of the ways that you can tell, okay, you know, it's going to come up here, it's going to tag this, and then what will happen? Typically what will happen, once it tags that blue line, it's going to come back and test this ATR here. Okay, that's where my potential entry point would be, because I would anticipate it to actually go up to, let's see, let me remove some of these, take this down. So you come up here and tag it, then you come back and test here, then that could potentially push it up to 99.86. Okay. Any questions on that one, Robert? The EuroCAD, I'll look at it. Actually, it should go up from here with the stochastics here. I would look at it to go up to 48.12. Okay. And potentially even higher. It's not one I would want to be shorting right now. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go short on this right now personally. They just tested this fast moving average here, and right now they're finding support. So yeah, I wouldn't be interested in a short position on that. And on top of that, you just had the Pearson line with bullish Harami on the 360. Yeah, I'm not going short on that. Any other markets? Well, any other Forex currencies? Kathy, you want to see the GBP, JPY? Sure. Okay, you just had the Pearson line formation, and it's also trend here. So I would expect this to go up to 135.24. Let me mark that on the chart because I don't have it marked right now. So that's the first area on the weekly chart that is going to hit resistance. But then when you go down to the daily, You also have a potential of resistance at 130.43. And then when we come down to the 360, I do think you're going to get a retracement pretty soon on this one because the ADX is now over 70. So I would be looking for a test of support at 128.40. Now, there's two things that could actually happen, Kathy. This blue line can act as support. You see that occurred here, okay? Or it could come down to 128.40. With the ADX being above 70, I would expect it to come back to 128.40, okay? That's where I would be the most interested in taking a position. And again, if it holds, then, you know, I would want to be going long, but I also don't want this to be overextended as well. Okay. Any other markets y'all would like to look at? I think overall it's probably going to go up, especially because the weekly is showing that it more than likely will go up. But again, I like to wait and see that support develop on the 360. You know, that would be my entry point. Any other markets y'all would like to look at this morning or this evening? Okay, before we go, I would like to again invite you to visit my website at www.tradershelpdesk.com, and you can also email me at gm@tradershelpdesk.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. I hope y'all have a wonderful week trading, and I'll see you again. Not next Monday, but probably the following Monday, because it's my birthday and I'm taking the week off. All right. Y'all have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining me tonight.